And again, I'm not trying to brag, I'm just trying to tell you, we're for real. We're serious. Yes?
You don't sound like you're bragging.
No, I hope not. I don't want to.
Just as an individual, sometimes, and we're self-employed, sometimes I feel kind of helpless and hopeless about everything that's happened in the last year. And you said you kind of saw the pendulum changing. In what ways do you feel hope, like things could be better? In what ways?
Oh, I think there's lots of ways, and you're seeing it right now. Take it for whatever it's worth, but Morris, I can't think of his first name, the guy that wrote Catastrophe. He was just on, Dick Morris, was just on Bill O'Reilly tonight as I was getting dressed to come here. And he said that he predicts that the Republicans are going to take over both the House and the Senate next year. I'm not saying that, but he said that. So yeah, there's hope. You think about it. Last year, in last year's election in Virginia, there were 3 House of Representatives who were swept into office by the Obama landslide. All 3 Democrats. In this election in November, in Virginia, for governor, in the one district, the gubernatorial Republican won by 64% of the vote. In the other district, he won by 61%, and in this third district, he won by 57%. Now, what do you think those 3 Democrats are thinking? So yeah, there's hope. I think that you're going to see things turned around. I hope so. I hope so. You know, I don't know if the press is here, I'm not predicting that they're going to take over both the House and the Senate. It'd be great if they would. But you have to remember that it took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. And this guy's a lot worse than Jimmy Carter ever thought of being. And, you know, I talked a lot at the beginning of my talk about experience. I think people are finally recognizing, as we elected the most inexperienced president in the history of the United States, that maybe we made a mistake and that this is not a place for on-the-job training. Now, I'm not comparing gubernatorial or governor's office with the president, but experience is important. It really is. And this president has none. In fact, if you'll forgive me for, and I'm not endorsing Sarah Palin, but Sarah Palin, who was criticized for not having any experience, had worlds more of executive experience than this president has ever had. So it's important. I'm optimistic, but I'm an optimistic person. But I think it'll be a good year for the Republicans next year.
It's just a comment. It's nothing at all. But the people with the power is not necessarily the executive branch. It's the Senate, and that is where we all went wrong, where America went wrong in the last election, is electing all those leftist Senate participants. It's not necessarily Mr. Obama, although I do not support the man. No, I'm not saying anything. But the Senate is our big problem right now. Don't we need to get them under control?
Well, we do.
We
We really do. But not only is the Senate a problem, so is the House. I mean, we got a mess.
Sure,
We got a mess in Washington.
Yeah.
In fact,
that's our problem.
I just heard, did you hear that the Supreme Court ruled that we cannot have a nativity scene in Washington, D.C.? It's not have anything to do with religion. It's just that they searched the whole town and they couldn't find 3 wise men. Sorry.
It's an old Cody joke, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
You said almost at the beginning of your speech that Evanston is a progressive town. I guess I view progression in technology. And as far as technology goes, we are not a progressive town at all. Our internet speed, the maximum you can get is 1.5 megs. What are you going to do in increasing our community and our state's technological scheme?
Well, that's a really good question. And I'm not going to address Evanston because I have no knowledge of Evanston. But one of the things this state really needs to look at is technology. And I don't know if you know, if you remember, Governor Geringer was really a high-tech guy.
He was.
And he really did a lot of neat things that he never got much credit for in the
And
area
then
of
it stopped
technology.
for 8
And then
years.
it kind of stopped. You know, I think we probably have to admit that we're not gonna get a lot of these really, really high-level, high-paying jobs come to Wyoming. And, you know, we'll try, but we're not gonna get them. But what we really should be concentrating on is because of our lifestyle, because of our unique way of being able to live here, and our schools, our tax, we should be able to draw people to this state that can, because of technology, do things here just as easily as they can in California or on the New York Stock Exchange. And by the way, I've met a stockbroker who lives in Afton, Wyoming. He wants his children to be in our schools, but he's trading stocks on the New York Stock Exchange from Afton. Those are exciting kind of things that could be could really lead to some really neat people come to Wyoming. So we really need to concentrate. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you I know all that there is about technology, but the mark of a good leader is who they surround themselves with. And we need to have some really good tech stuff, and the state needs to lead the charge. That's really an important issue as far as business development in the state of Wyoming.
If you look at our neighboring state in Utah, Utah is one of the leading technological states in the union. So if they can do it in a mountainous region, why can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm getting way over my head, but it's my understanding that many communities do have the infrastructure, do have the wiring or the whatever it
The
takes.
fiber optic.
The fiber optics, thank you. That it's not that big of a step for us to do. We just need to have somebody with the leadership to do it. And that's really a good question. Yes.
Back to the money again. In the early part of the history of the Articles of Confederacy, the money failed, it was weak, and hence not worth continental dollar and all.
Right.
That's nothing compared to what the Federal Reserve, a large centralized bank that Jefferson warned us about. That's nothing compared to what they've done to us.
Right.
And Ben Bernanke on the cover of Time today, you know, I mean, might as well have Adolf. What's your view on the Federal Reserve and getting back to precious metals-based currency?
Well, I'm going to actually duck that question because I don't know if the governor is going to have any impact on the Federal Reserve. And I apologize for doing that, but I think there are real problems with the Federal Reserve. And I'm not sure how we got to the position where we've turned over the whole currency system to a private deal.
And the bailouts,
And
which was our money.
And bailouts and all that stuff. But, this is what you're going to want to hear. But the governor is probably not going to change the Federal Reserve System. If I have a chance, I'd like to talk to some people about it.
Hey, Ron?
Yes,
Yeah,
John.
under,
By the way, John here was one of our great support in Evanston years ago when we ran for the legislature. And, he stepped forward and really appreciate several people in the room, but John was one of the good guys.
with the current governor, they've really grown government a lot in Wyoming, in a lot of different departments. It's like 5 times what was under Jim Geringer's numbers.
Let me just verify what John's saying. In the last, and we talked a lot about the federal government, but don't think that Wyoming is immune from that same kind of sickness. In the last 7 years, Wyoming state government has tripled in size. And the legislature just commissioned a study this summer, and the result of that was, no big surprise, that kind of growth is not sustainable. We have got to do something to bring state government under control. So, go ahead.
It's brought us to our knees.
It has.
And, of course, you know how I feel about you, but when you're governor, what are your thoughts about where we were, where we are, and where you were when you served under Jim Geringer, and there's a huge disparity.
Right.
You know?
No question. People always say, why do you want to run for governor when the revenues are so bad? You heard the dire situation for cities, towns, and counties, and schools, and all of government. Everybody. And my answer to you is, I think it's a great opportunity. I really do. Maybe that's Pollyanna. But government's not efficient on a good day. But it's really not efficient when you have billion-dollar surpluses. And that's the situation we've been in for the last 4 or 5 years.